This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, Parshat Korach, page 820. And 820 in the Stone Chumashim. And we learn in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of the Fathers, that Taiva, Tava, Kina, and Kavod motzin et adam min ha'olam. Tava, lust, desires. Kavod, honor. And Kina, jealousy, can take a person out from the world, can literally destroy a person, both in this world and in the next world. And last week's Parsha, which was Parshat Shlach, which was the spies, the Meraglim. So there we saw how what kavod, the lust for honor, could do to a person. And here we see what jealousy can do for a person. It's interesting. I saw a beautiful, beautiful article. How what's going on today is our tikkun, our way of correcting the meraglim. Right, the meraglim, the people cried, "We don't want to go to Israel. It's not going to work. It's not good. Let's go back to Egypt." Right, that was the meraglim. The meraglim said it's not going to work there. Right, the people are too powerful, and we accepted that, and we cried that we don't want to go to Israel. Right, better to go back to Egypt. Right, we'll die here in the midbar. Right, we'll die here in the desert. And what's happening now is the tikkun for that sin, where we see everyone thought, certainly our enemies thought, right, going back to their believing their own propaganda, we're not going to have the stamina to keep fighting. We're not going to have the stamina. We're not going to have the morale. We're just going to say, forget it. Who needs it? We'll go back to, as they thought, we'll go back to Poland. We'll go back to Russia. We'll go back to Germany. We'll go back to the United States. We'll go back to France. Right, and this has been the tikkun for the meraglim. Right, the morale is strong. The morale. I see to my son who's there, and we have to do what we have to do, and we can't stop until we finish. What's going on now with this peace? I don't know, deal of Trump. I don't know. We say in the davening. We say this in davening every morning from Tehillim, and I say a little bit of Tehillim every day. I try to say every day, and today this was again. Today's happened to be this: Al tivtechu b'nedivim. Do not put al tivtechu b'nedivim. Right, b'ven adam. Right, don't put your faith in people. And and Trump. God bless him, and he thanked God, and he bombed the reactors. He did. It was great. And everyone's saying, "Oh, he's the great." And now 3 days later, the guy is so volatile. Right? There's peace. Israel don't respond. We put our faith there, right? And Hashem says, no. That's not. But I'm with you in 1 second, Jenny. But this has been the morale and the spirit and the dedication. This has been the tikkun for the meraglim. That we're here and we're not going to go. We're not going anywhere. Yeah, Jenny, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Rabbi, on that subject of tikkun, maybe also I think, in my view, when the Jews started coming back to Israel and the formation of the state in 48, with all that entailed and all the way the land was, the amount of work that needed to be done for the land itself, and then all the enemies that faced Israel, and the fact that there was this will, this desire. I think that to me, that's also some kind of tikkun.
100%. I agree with you. I agree with you. Yes, and and that was certainly a tikkun. To turn I remember when we moved to Israel, so our upstairs neighbors were Gveret and Adon Shvimer, and they were both Nitzulei Shoah. They're both Holocaust survivors. He had been married and had children and lost his wife and children. She had been a teenager, and Dr. Mengele Yamach Shemo would do some experiments that they would have dogs. She was one of those that have dogs bite and see if it's not treated, what are the reactions. And another young couple in the building once brought home a dog, and she came running into my apartment and said, "Adon Yisrael, look, bilti efshari, we can't have a dog here." She was so traumatized. And I went over to this friends of ours, young couple, and I said, "Guys, you can't have a dog. We can't have a dog. You can't have a dog." I said, "If you're living in Gveret Shrimer's building, you can't have a dog." It's as simple as it. Got rid of it.
Could she have kids?
She had 2 children. Yeah. One of them died not in battle, but got sick around. I never fully understood the whole story. Yeah, but she would say to us, in relation to what you said, Jenny, she would say to us, "Adon Yisrael, aliyah shalachem lo k'mo aliyah shalanu." Right? Yisrael, your aliyah is not like our aliyah. Your aliyah, you get the zechuyot, you get the refrigerator and the oven and the car, and you have the rent subsidies. When we moved to Israel, this was in '83, our rent was $150 a month. The rent subsidies were $140 a month. We paid $10 a month in rent. She said, we lived in tents, and we had to work in the swamps with the mosquitoes and everything like that. 100%, Jenny.
And also, it just put me in mind of something. Maybe I've watched the movie about, or the documentary about, the Israeli Philharmonic and how they came together from all the exiled great musicians of Europe.
Yeah.
Who came from their cultural, whatever it was, and to this place which was totally undeveloped. And, and for them, it was, I guess it was also something like that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the past 75 years, 77 years have been a tikkun for the Meraglim. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Vayikach Korach, ben Yitzhar, ben Kahat, ben Levi, v'Datan v'Aviram, b'nei Eliyav, v'on ben Pelet, b'nei Reuven, v'Yakumu l'fnei Moshe, v'Anashim b'nei Yisroel chamishim matayim. And Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahat, the son of Levi, took. And Datan and Aviram, the sons of Eliyav, and On ben Pelet, the sons of Reuven. So the English says Korach separated himself, but that's not what the Hebrew says. The Hebrew says Vayikach Korach. Korach took. But it's a very, very strange construct because it does not say what he took. And Korach took. What did Korach take? Rashi says, Vayikach Korach. What did Korach take? Korach took himself. The Targum, the Aramaic translation, we have it in our Chumash, the Itpaleg Korach, meaning he separated himself from the tzibur, from the community. He cut himself off. He separated. We were all this one unified front. Vayikach Korach. Korach took himself. I need to pause for 1 minute. Excuse me 1 second.
This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, so you want to say Vayikach Korach, right?
He took himself, but he took all his other.
Yes. So then it would say Vayikach Korach et Datan v'Aviram. if that's what it meant simply, that is one way of learning it. You're right. What did he take? He took Datan and Aviram and On and the 250 leaders, Nisieda, right? But it doesn't say Vayikach et. He took them. It says Vayikach Korach ve and Datan v'Aviram and On ben Pelet Vayakumu. Hello. Come, Judy. No problem. We saved you a seat.
If I smell like marijuana, it's not me, it's the driver of the Uber.
Okay. Maybe that'll add a little bit to the class. You never know.
No, it's like, it's really, I don't, but he did.
Okay. Right?
Rabbi?
Yes.
Rabbi? It occurs to me the separation might be very diagnostic. Where do we, when you say kare, cut off, separate. So maybe internally Korach had gotten so spiritually detached that it was like almost a tsarat sort of case.
Okay. Interesting what you're saying. Yeah.
Like being cut off that way.
Yes. The Noam Elimelech says, right, again, the Onkelos said, V'it paleg Korach, that he split, right? 820, page 820, right? V'it paleg, that he split. But another way of understanding is, so either, like we're saying, he split from the whole community, split from Moshe, or V'it paleg, he split from himself. As Jan, as you mentioned, the idea of karet is that we have this connection between us and God and Hashem, that we have a physical being that's all of whatever it is, 5'6", 5'8", 5'9", whatever it might be, but who we really are, that traverses from this world into the spiritual realm. And Yaakov's dream of the ladder was actually that its feet are on the ground and the head reaches the heavens. That was a representation of a human being, and we are all connected up to Hashem, to the spiritual realm, and the itpaleg, that he severed that connection. Right? It's interesting. Machloket, which is dispute, Machloket comes from the word lechalek, chelek, that you are splitting yourself off. And Korach is the epitome of jealousy over here. What was his jealousy about? So Korach was really the first communist, right? Meaning, remember Animal Farm?
Yeah.
Right? All animals are equal,
Some are more.
but the pigs are a little bit more equal than the others, right? So Korach is all about, we should all, right? What does he say? See Gimel for a minute, verse 3. They gathered on Moshe and Aaron, they said, Rav Lachem, ki kol ha'edah kulam kedoshim. The whole entire congregation, they're all holy. Uvetocham Hashem, and God is amongst them. Ubadua titnasu'u. So why do you rise yourself up? Al Ka'al Hashem, against the Ka'al Hashem. So Korach had his beef for a while over here. Korach was ben Yitzhar, ben Kahat, ben Levi. So he was the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahat. Kahat had 4 sons. The oldest son was Amram. And therefore he couldn't contest Aaron being appointed initially, because Aaron was the son of his grandfather Kahat's oldest son. He was the son of the second son. But Rashi brings the Medrash that when Moshe had appointed as the leader of the Nasi, that he appointed the son of the youngest of Kahat's sons, Elitzur ben he appointed the youngest. So therefore, he now is going to come and argue. And once he's arguing, he's going to argue about Aaron also. He wants it all. And why now? Right? This appointment happened a long time ago. So why is Korach coming out now? Well, what just happened before? previous Parsha was the Parsha of Shlach, of the Meraglim. Moshe's whole leadership was, I'm taking you out of Egypt, and I'm going to bring you to the promised land, to the land of Israel. And now, what just happened? Because of the Meraglim, because of the spies, they were told they're all going to die in the Midbar. At this point, Moshe's popularity is not where it had been before. And now he thinks, now this is my opportunity. So a Baal Machloket, a person who's looking to argue, looking to cause dissent, often will sit and wait for that opportunity, for the right moment. And he felt this was the right moment. Who did he gather along? Datan and Aviram and On ben Pelet, who were all children of Reuven. Why is that significant? Why would the descendants of Reuven have some beef over here? Reuven was, their grandfather Reuven was?
The oldest.
Or the oldest.
Bechor of the Bechor.
Mm-hmm.
The very first of all the firsts.
The first of all the firsts. Leah was the first to give birth of all the of Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah. Leah was the first to give birth, and the first one she gave birth to was Reuven, right? And he was marginalized. He was marginalized. Kingdom, royalty comes from Yehuda, the fourth son, and the service in the Mishkan that went to Levi, and the Kohanim were part of Levi. So Reuven, those descendants of Reuven, they might have some beef, and they also come. Now it's interesting. On ben Pelet was his name was one of the top ones. Korach, Datan, Aviram, and On. These were the main players, and then there were 250 others that they gathered along. So what happened to On? So the Medrash tells us On had a very smart wife. And On said, why are you joining in? What's in this for you? Either Moshe's going to be the leader or Korach's going to be the leader. Right? All pigs are equal, animals are equal, but some are more. Right? You're not getting you're not becoming the leader over here. So why should you be involved? Right? And the Medrash says that she sent him to go to sleep, and he said, "What can I do? What can I say?" Right? I told him I'd be with him. She said, "I'll handle it. You go take a nap." And she sat by the entrance of the tent, right, dressed or not dressed in a manner that the leaders felt comfortable walking in, and they didn't go in, and he slept through it. By the time he woke up, it was already done. Right? There's a pasuk I think in Mishlei, Chachmat Isha Banta Beta. Right? The wisdom of a woman, Banta Beta, Boneh Banta, Banta Beta. Right? That's what builds the house. That's what keeps things.
This is to watch about this.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Correct. And they said, Rav Lachem, enough. Right? You've taken too much for yourself. He called Ha'ed al Kulam Kedoshim. Right? Everyone is holy. What lifts you up? Vayishma Moshe Yipol Panav. Right? Now, so it's amazing. The person that the Torah describes as being the most humble of all people, right? That is the one that they claimed that you're in it for yourself. Right? You're trying to lift yourself up. Right? By the El Korach, Moshe spoke to them, and he said to them, Boker v'yada Hashem. In the morning, Hashem will make clear, Et asher lo, Et hakadosh v'yikrav elav.
The other thing is that he's getting up, instead of talking to Moshe, he's
getting all his people to back him up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Like an instruction.
Yeah, and again, the people were yes, and the people were disillusioned, right? Moshe, the whole thing was to bring us the land of Israel, and now it's not happening. And now it's not happening. And Moshe says, "Okay, you all want to do this, right? You'll all take the incense, all take pans, and let's see what's going to be." And Moshe said to Korach in verse 8, right? Shimon Abin Levi, Hama'at Mikem, verse 9 is it insignificant? Is it small? That God has separated you from the whole congregation to serve in the Mishkan and to stand before Hashem. The whole tribe of Levi, you are of an elevated status. Right? And he's brought close you and all the Bnei Levi. Ubikashtem gam kahuna. And now you also want kahuna. Lachain. And therefore you and all those, right? Why are you coming against Aaron? Pasuk Yud Bet. Moshe sent to call Datan and Aviram, and they said, Lo na'aleh, we're not coming to see you. Hama'at, verse 13, is it not enough that you brought us out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the midbar, to kill us in the desert, then now you also want to dominate us? All of a sudden, Egypt has become the land flowing with milk and honey, right? I'm sorry?
He is a communist, really.
Yeah.
Rewriting history.
Rewriting the history.
Taking over control.
Yeah, yeah.
Better
and Moshe tried to bring them to make shalom. There's a beautiful concept of having a shalom account, right? A peace account, right? We have different bank accounts. Have a shalom account, Rabbi. That was a beautiful story. There was a guy. Who had a subscription to the New York Times. All right? Subscription. Rabbi Sacha Frand tells a beautiful story. It's a guy in Baltimore. He had his subscription to the New York Times. Come every morning, New York Times. And he loved opening up the New York Times, fresh, clean paper, and reading it. His neighbor wanted to read the news. His neighbor would come early in the morning, take his paper, read it, and then put it back. Right? It was a little bit bent, had some coffee stains on it, right? And this guy was furious. How dare he? So after a while, he just stood there, right? He caught the guy red-handed as he came to his house to take the paper. He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm reading the paper. You don't read it for another hour, right? Because I want a fresh paper." "Well, you need I'll give it back to you." This guy was furious. He wanted to take this guy to a din Torah. He went to speak to his rabbi. Rabbi heard the story, and he said, "Okay, I've got the way to handle this. I've got the eitzah for you. What should I do, Rabbi?" Right? Buy him a subscription to the New York Times. I should buy him. It'll be the best investment he'll ever make. Buy him a subscription to the New York Times. That's crazy. Buy him a subscription to the New York Times. That's what he did. Right? And he said, we spend money on mitzvahs. Right? Kosher food. Expensive. Right? A talit. Lulav etrog. Shul membership. Right? We spend money. We spend money on mitzvot. Shalom is also a mitzvah. So he said you should have an account. Right? Now I don't have an account. Things like we say, we'll take it out of the shalom account. Right? Spend some money, all right? If that's the issue, that right, it's this, that's gonna be the issue, the cost of a subscription to the New York Times, that's gonna be the issue. Take it out of the shalom account. We spend money on other mitzvot. Spend it on that also. So Moshe went and tried to alleviate this, but they would have nothing of it. And then we know what ended up happening was that the earth, right? He said to them as follows, right, everyone bring your machta, everyone bring, right? Let's go to verse 16 on 824, right? Everyone will come before Hashem, each of you with your fire pan, put in the incense and offer before Hashem, all 250, and Aaron also. And they did that. They stood by the Ohel Moed. And again, as you pointed out, Judy, Korach got the whole, or Mary got the whole Ada there, and Hashem's presence appeared. Verse 20, Hashem said, separate from there, I'll wipe them out. And they said, Hashem, one person's sinning, don't get angry at all of them. 23, right? Go up from around the encampment of Korach, Datan, and Aviram. And they all went there, and he told the Ada, he told the congregation, 26, stay away from them, don't touch, lest you'll be caught up with them. And they all went, V'yatsu nitzavim, they're there, right, arguing by the entrance there, 8:26, 28. Moshe said, now you'll know Hashem sent me to do all this. I did not appoint myself. I did not appoint Aaron. I did not appoint my nephew out of search for my own ascendancy, my own honor. If you'll die like everyone dies, then you'll know Hashem did not send me. But if there'll be this new opening of the earth and will swallow all of you up, then you'll know that they have fought against Hashem. When he finished, the earth split open and it swallowed them, their houses, all of theirs. They all went down and the earth closed up again. Machloket. Machloket. When we look to Machloket is disputes, arguments. When we look to find, to split ourselves up, and certainly we were talking about October 7th before, we are vulnerable when we have all of this infighting amongst ourselves, when we're all looking to fracture ourselves. Mary.
So my sister has been studying the Kabbalah for now about 5 years. We talked about, I said, so what does the Rabbi says about all this?
Is she studying Kabbalah in one of these Kabbalah centers or at a real place?
No, in Israel.
In Israel, okay.
With Rabbi
Okay, good.
He's Russian or something. What?
Not the commercial one in LA.
No, in Israel. And now it's all online. But she said that he says that in order for us to be united, we need all these tzuras. So it's hard to think.
Yeah.
It
Look,
gets us to be together because when
I would say if we need the tsaros to bring us together, then we'll have the tsaros. I wouldn't put it that the only way we could be united is with the tsaros, but certainly when we are not united and we don't see a path forward towards uniting us, the tsaros, the difficulties around us certainly do bring us together. Yeah, and that is, like we talked about that before, Mary, right? You know, that because of this, the Jews are identifying as Jews and feel more of a kinship to other Jews and recognize that we are what we've got, and we try to go elsewhere. Yeah. Yes, Judy.
I agree, but I also respectfully disagree. And I'll tell you why I respectfully disagree. I think that to focus on the way the moment is, belies the fact that this, number one, has been going on for centuries. Everybody hates the Jews. There were going to be reparations. They say, oh, don't. There are going to be reparations. We get it from everybody. Starting with the Egyptian, everybody be paying us reparations. Anti-Semitism never went away. It had its little seeds under FDR. It had its seeds in a lot of other administrations. Ban Ki-moon did a great job of making sure that the entire United Nations was full of nothing but Jew hate, but disguised as other things. Obama put it. What we're seeing today was crafted. Nothing was. And so
Yes.
my point is. So, for example, and I don't mean to get into politics or anything like that. Let's look at Chuck Schumer and Merrick Garland. Okay, they're both Jews. They both got that spark, right? But whatever you decide to do as a Jew, you decide to do as a Jew either as part of Judaism and part of humanity and part of the collective society that you belong to. There's a past that we all bring, right? There's the completion of our life purposes through Hashem. And if you're going to do what you're going to do, like what he's doing here, for personal gain, manipulating facts into lies so that it becomes relative. Is that really what happened? Are we sure about that? It's a responsibility that goes far beyond saying we need source to bring us together. That much is true, but it doesn't excuse the depth and
100%.
breadth of how we got here.
100%. Right? Look, very often our worst enemies have been from within, as you see with Korach, Datan and Aviram, and you hear Bernie Sanders backing up this mayoral candidate, right? Who's running on anti-Israel, and you have Bernie Sanders. I mean, it's like you can't make this stuff up. So yes, we have had. There's always been our worst enemies have come from within, right? And there has been anti-Semitism, throughout, right? But in situations when we can't find a way to unite, anti-Semitism has a way of keeping us honest, keeping us together. Right? It's tragic, right? But as you mentioned from your sister in our Kabbalah classes, right? There are many such sources that is one of the very sad and tragic but necessary means that Hashem, with his hashgacha pratit, with his divine providence and orchestration, utilizes to make sure that we don't forget who we are. Very famous line from Rav Chaim of Volozhin, that if a Jew does not make kiddush, then the goy makes havdalah. If we don't decide to sanctify ourselves and uplift ourselves, then the goy says havdalah. He makes that separation and lets us know no dogs or no Jews allowed on the premises. Yeah, and So when we are split like this, that is when we are very, very vulnerable. Very battery's running low. We'll make it still. Yeah, just this an interesting side point. We had the holiday of Shavuot. So Moshe kibel Torah mi Sinai. Moshe received the Torah mi Sinai, from Sinai. Right? What Torah did Moshe receive on Mount Sinai? What does that mean? He received the Torah on Sinai. Right? He didn't walk down with the Sefer Torah. He walked down with the Luchot. So what Torah did Moshe receive on Sinai? Yeah.
The entire Torah, the Torah Shel Baal Peh and the Torah Chut Tov.
Okay, so if you want to say that it was the entire Torah shebichtav, right, then my guess is Korach would not have made this rebellion, because he would have read up a little bit and seen, oh, this is not going to bode so well. Or even better, even if Korach didn't get a copy, Moshe would not have hit the rock, right? Instead of speaking to the rock, because he would have had a glimpse a few chapters up that that's not going to end very well. So there is a machloket. When was the Torah, as we have it, the 5 books of Moses, the 5 books of the Torah, when were they written? One opinion says that it was at the end of the 40 years. That's when Hashem dictated to Moshe and he wrote down the entire Torah. Another opinion says, and this is the one that Rashi and Ramban seem to follow, that up until Moshe wrote the Torah on Mount Sinai, up until the point of Mount Sinai. And then after that, Megillah, Nichtav. It was recorded during the 40 years. Moshe would record more and more and more, dictated by Hashem as we go through. So if that's the case, no one says the Torah as we have it in its entirety was given to Moshe at Mount Sinai.
Simple deduction is everything that would be written in the Torah was contained in the tablets and the 10 Commandments, technically.
All the mitzvot might have been contained. Yeah, I'm back on. The computer just died. If you guys are still back on.
What was the thou shalt nots, though? It doesn't say what the mitzvot are. It says what you.
So the simple understanding would be that all the mitzvot were given to Moshe, was taught to Moshe on Mount Sinai. And then, over the course of 40 years, it was written down. So in a certain way, the Torah Shebal Peh preceded the Torah Shebichtav. Right? That's an interesting point to keep in mind. Right? The oral Torah preceded the written Torah. Yeah. And that's when we say Torah was given to Moshe, it means all of the mitzvot were given. And that, I heard a very interesting thought, that's meant by Daber Hashem el Moshe Lemor. Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Daber el Bnei Yisrael. What's the Lemor? Right? Now's the time for you to tell them. Right? Now's the time for you to tell them. And there are, right, during at different stages in the Midbar, that's when Hashem told Moshe about, now release the information.
On the mountain.
Right, that's the Torah.
He slowly disseminated.
And then it was written, and then it was disseminated over the course of that time. And there are 4 times where Moshe, right, where they were unsure what to do. Right, we have the daughters of Tzlafchad who came to Moshe and said, why our father died, there are no sons, why should we not receive? And then Moshe asked, and then Hashem spoke to Moshe, and Moshe shared, yes, if there are no sons, then the daughters inherit. Or Pesach Sheni, those who were impure, unable to bring the Pesach sacrifice. So he said, why should we lose out? And yes, Pesach Sheni. So again, it would have to be that Moshe knew all of those things, but he had not yet been given license to share it.
So he knew how he was going to die.
So that's not one of the mitzvot.
Okay.
The mitzvot he knew.
Okay.
But all the story, like I said, he didn't know the story about the rock, otherwise he wouldn't have hit it.
Oh.
Right? He couldn't have known that. Otherwise, why is he hitting it? Right? If I could read up and say this is going to be a terrible mistake for me, I'm not going to make that mistake. So the mitzvot he had, right? Korach didn't know this story. Had he known this story, he would have certainly chosen a different path on it. Yes.
Then what part inspired Korach to be so filled with jealousy, aside from the fact that he was descended from Reuben?
Okay, he wasn't from Reuven. He was from Levi.
Oh, Levi.
The others were from Reuven.
Okay, why? What was the
So
thing that stuck in his gut?
so they say that in fact, right? Later on, the Torah will tell us Ubnei Korach lo metu. He had children who did teshuvah, and they did not die. He saw that great people would descend from him. Shmuel Hanavi, right, descended from him. He saw great things descending from him. And he thought, if it's coming from me, then I must be the one who's going to be alive through all this. Right? He didn't know that it wasn't through him, but rather it was through his children.
Oh.
So he saw greatness, in fact, coming from him, but he got it a little confused. It wasn't from him. It was from him, but not through him, but it's through his children. And he had this very, very tragic, ignominious, is that the word? Death.
That's like narcissism, actually.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. But that's what we began with. That when a person has jealousy, right, it can drive a person motzinat adam min ha'olam, right? You lose this world, you lose next world, you don't act in a rational way, right? Like anger could lead a person to act in a very self-harming manner, right? Jealousy also, right? I don't care as long as he doesn't or she doesn't. I don't care. I don't care what happens to me, and that's what we see from Korach over here. We see, these parshiot are giving us glimpses into all these different manners, midot, right, character traits, and where it can and where it did take different people to, and often, and that's also projection, right? Moshe was the most humble of all people. What does Korach project of himself onto Moshe? Why do you want to be the kingpin? Right? Projecting all of that onto him. All right, my friends, we'll call it over here. Sorry for the technical issues. I hope we came back on for you guys. 9:30, 10:30. Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome, Cheryl.
Woodbridge.
Be well, Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi, and everyone.
Sure.